Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on flexbox. My name's Anthony, and in this video we'll be looking at everything you need to know about flexbox to build an application in Fixflow. So let's get started. Here we have our example dashboard, and on it we have 5 coloured areas. Now what we'll be doing is editing the container area, highlighted here by the grey dotted line, also called our tile body, to change its flexbox properties that will control the areas inside it. So let's open up the tile body, and if we scroll down inside its style settings, we come to the section where we have direction. Now, the first thing that we see is that we have an auto size set. So our tile body is taking up all available space. Now one thing just to highlight here is that for auto size to work, the parent object must be set to use flexbox. Otherwise the auto size options applied to its children will not work. So the direction, as the name suggests, sets the direction of its content. So here we're set to a row, and we can see our objects are flowing from left to right. If I was to change this to be a column and save that, what we see here is our content is in a column. We've run out of space, so we've started a new column. And the reason for that is because we have the wrap option set. Next we have the wrap. What this is used for is if our content is too large for the particular row or column, what the CSS will do is actually create a new row or a new column and allow that content to flow into it. So here, if I was to make our dashboard slightly smaller, we'll see that our content is wrapping round. So this can be really useful when you're designing responsive applications. Next, we have the justify. Much like a word processor, justify sets where our content starts. So we've started on a row here, so the justify determines where we begin on that row. Flex start just means we start at the beginning, which in this case is the left. If I change that, we can do flex end, and that will move it to the far end. Or alternatively, we have some other options, and we can choose center or space between. Now, there are other options available in here, and by all means please explore those at your leisure. There are lots of resources online available to help you with all the formatting that's available in Flexbox, but we'll just keep it to the main functions here. And finally we have alignment, and here what we can do is we can change the alignment to things like center, and it moves the content in the row to determine where it will start vertically. Now all these options will apply to the column as well, so let's see a few of those in action here. So here we've now got the wrap set. The justify is start, which means we're starting from the top of the column, and we've got the alignment set to the center. Now if we do a flex start here, then everything moves to the left. Now the next option I'd like to show you is what we call stretch. So I'm just going to switch back to a row. Now what stretch is used for is it allows the parent object to stretch the objects inside it. Now when we use stretch, the stretch is applied perpendicular to the direction. So for example, if we change our alignment here and we say stretch, we'll see that the stretch has been applied vertically. Now if I was to change the row to a column, and save that, we'll see that our content has been stretched perpendicular to the column. Now this is a really useful feature because it gives us greater control over the objects that are inside our application and how we lay those out. So what we'll look at next is how we can apply some additional features in conjunction with Flexbox in order to gain even better control of our areas. So let's start with auto size. Where we saw that the alignment stretch was applied perpendicular to the direction, auto size works in line with the direction. So for example, if we select our 5th area here, scroll down to its properties, we can choose auto size, and we can see that for our column, this particular area has expanded out and taken up all of the available space. Now all of the other areas have a minimum height set on them of 200 pixels. What I'll do here is I will set the height of this particular area, and we'll set this to be 50%. What this will do is push one of our areas into the next column. Now because this area that's been pushed across doesn't have auto size set, it's just going to its minimum height. However, if I was to come down here and choose auto size, it will share the available space with its sibling. This is really useful again because you can start to proportionally lay things out on our screen. But what we might want to do is actually have one of these objects or one of these areas take priority and be slightly larger. And that's really easy to do. And for that, we can use what we call the grow factor here. So if I wanted this top area to be slightly larger, I can set grow factor to 2, save that, and now you can see that it's proportionally larger to its sibling below. Alternatively, you can set specific heights. So a moment ago we used the 50% height on one of our areas. You can set exact heights. So I may have wanted the height of this particular area to be 400 pixels. And we can see there that that's overridden the growth factor and actually forced it to be that particular size. The area below will never go below 200 pixels. And that's because it has a minimum height set on it. And we can see that here in our demo area style. Now for heights and widths, we can actually set minimum and maximum heights, and that gives us even greater control over the areas that sit inside our applications. So we can allow particular areas to grow to a certain point and then stop them, and then we can use things like the vertical scroll bar in order to show their content. So let's now go and have a look at this in an application setting. Here we have an example dashboard that's provided as part of theme 2. And we can see here we have 4 tiles, and this is actually utilizing the flexbox layout in a row with widths applied to our filter by and employee areas in order for those to take up proportionally more space. So let's have a look at the properties that are used to set this up. If we go into the tile container, we can see here that the containing area is set to auto size. That's why it's consuming all of the space we can see on the screen. It has a row. It's wrapping, and that's why our 2 tiles here have moved on to the second line. They start at the beginning of each line, and we've also told it that all of the content should be stretched to take up the available space, and that's why the top and bottom here are actually proportionate to one another. Now all of the tiles share a style, and if we look inside that style, what we'll see is we have set some minimum widths and heights. And we can see here we have a minimum height of 300 and a minimum width of 330. Now what that's used for is if you're using an application on a smaller device, then you don't want the tile to be squeezed so much that you can't look at its content. So here, if I start to reduce the size, we can see that they only go to a particular point. And after that, we're presented with a scroll bar that allows us to see additional content. So we can see that the Flexbox is really useful when developing responsive applications. Now, if you're new to HTML and CSS, I always recommend that you use simple areas like I have here to make sure that your areas are responding as you'd like them to before you start filling them with content and having a more complex layout. So that brings us to the end of this video on Flexbox. I hope you found it useful, and thanks for watching.